It's Lion and Zion, and I am back. This is not gonna be a long one. I just got off listening to Rogan with unfunny comedian Israel Basher, uh, um, ethnic Jew, Dave Smith, who has been one of the great critics in America of Israel. And this time he reported that there are Israeli soldiers going out there executing little Palestinian children, shooting them in the head, and he has x rays to prove it. This is preposterous. And any kind of Google search just to see what the other side has to say on this, which you would think at this point, with one of the most complex and most convoluted conflicts on the planet, that you would probably do a little bit of checking just to see maybe Pallywood's at it again. Um, and you will see it. The idea that these X-rays are legit is ridiculous. The New York Times that posted this story originally um, has been pilloried for it. This is propaganda par excellence of the Pallywood machine. This and the junkies, these Pallywood junkies that just eat it up. So you have a 5.56 caliber bullet shot from a sniper rifle hitting what is considered they consider a baby in the skull, and yet the skull is perfectly intact in the X-ray. Give me a break. Even common sense would say that's just not possible. Such a caliber bullet hitting such a small child would have fragments of bone all over the place. It's horrible to say. The idea that I even have to have this conversation is so grotesque. Um, the IDF is made of citizen soldiers. The citizens of Israel are one of the most highly educated citizenry in the world. Yeah, so were the Germans in the 40s. But not only are they highly educated, they're a God-fearing society. I think something like 60 to 70% of Israelis consider themselves traditional. They're not believing in some Darwinist genealogy bullshit. They are believing in a Torah where nowhere would you ever be able to say killing a child execution style is okay. Now, there are obviously tragic situations that the genocidal jihadi maniacs who rely on defeating Israel through public opinion have put human shields, have used their population as PR drones, and put their babies on the altar of Moloch so that they can make Jewish monsters. And you goons around the world lap it up like you can't get enough. Just again, just a Google search and just say, is these x-rays being debunked? And you will have plenty of articles showing why this makes no sense whatsoever. Just to end this with an actual quote from somebody who actually has fought before and has been on the front lines and is not Israeli. And the Israeli haters love to bash him, but this is the former British Armed Forces commander in Afghanistan, and he said, and this is in his quote, "Nothing here is proof of war crimes by the IDF. This X-ray, which looks suspicious anyway, certainly doesn't prove it. Who's to say the headshots were not Hamas fire, either deliberately or unintentionally aimed at their own children? Hamas do use 5.56 rounds as well as other calibers, and they do murder their own people. If Israeli, who is to say whether they were crossfire, ricochet, or otherwise not deliberately targeted, and therefore not necessarily war crimes? Children can and have carried out terrorist acts for Hamas, and therefore can also, in these times, be considered legitimate targets, no matter how tragic that is, including for the soldiers who are forced to deal with them." So he's providing various different scenarios of why this could be not the false blood libelous lines that are being shoved down your throat in some of the biggest podcasts in the world by bozo clowns who have no idea what they're talking about and have obviously have no uh, enough objectivity to basically say, am I talking truth on one of the biggest podcasts in the world, and just do a check for themselves. And maybe even if you do mention it, mention the possibility that, could be wrong, and just still say it's tragic that kids are dying. And the doctors that he's quoting are, by the way, like, they're not objective. I mean, they are. I think the two big ones are Mark Palmeter, an orthopedic surgeon from North Carolina, and he's called Zionism before he came to Gaza early this year. He called it sadism. Zionism is sadism and the moral equivalent of Nazism. Okay, and then you have another guy called Ferozi Sithawa, and he believes Israel's been committing genocide in Gaza, and they in their essays that they wrote in Politico, which has also been picked up in the New York Times story, they claim they have no political interest in the outcome of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. So they're liars, because that's not the case from their previous social media posts and what they've been accused of calling Israel murdering children in their 5,000 word essay that they claim that they're objective. Anyways, I just want to throw my hat in the ring and say enough of the Pallywood junkies getting some kind of like microphone, and it's time that everybody realizes that this is part and parcel the Palestinian strategy for the last 40 years, 50 years that's worked. You know, images, propaganda, making false Jewish monsters and blood libels, and it's worked so far. But after October 7th, Israelis aren't putting up for it. We know that we're fighting a moral war, a defensive war, a war for our existence against caliphate wanting, not Palestine free jihadists who are genocidal in intent and in action, and they're willing to throw their innocent Gazan children at the feet of what they consider a holy war. And here's one Israeli that's not going to take it. Appreciate your time.